There's something powerful about taking something you love and sharing it with someone else and having them love it. Knowing that something that matters to me matters to them. I'm going to remember this moment for the rest of my life. If I'm on my deathbed, one of those things I'm going to be thinking about is I'm so glad I had that experience with them. And I knew this experience would be with them forever, and it'd be something they would tell their kids about in the future. I think that's almost how we create immortality, is by taking the things that we love, passing them on to our children and having it become valuable to them. And it guides their life, and they pass that on to other people. Welcome. You're listening to the Reprogram Your Mind podcast, and I'm your host, Todd L. Bauerle.
You think between 60 and 70,000 thoughts a day. 98% of your life is controlled by habit. If you want to change your life, you have to start by changing how you think. When you change you, everything in life changes.
If we can see it in our mind, we can hold it in our hand.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Reprogram Your Mind podcast. I'm your host, Todd Bauerle. I'm excited to have you here. I'm a coach. I work with people around the world, helping them live the life of their dreams, whatever that means. And I want to talk a little more generally about what living your dream life really means to you, so that you can begin to develop clear pictures, clear intentions of what you want your life to be. The more clear you are on what you want, the easier it is to get it. Most people are confused about what they want, or they don't put enough time and attention into the detail of what they want. They get so consumed with, how do I break out of where I'm currently at? How do I change what is currently happening? If you're focused on trying to change what's happening right now in your life, you are going to miss, and it will be completely invisible for you to see the ways in which you can move towards what you want. Everything changes in our life when we move towards what we want, but we can't move towards that unless we're clear about what we want. I want to start off by sharing just a little quote from this fantastic book, Psycho-Cybernetics by Maxwell Maltz. I've referenced this book before in my podcast. It is outstanding. It's about self-image psychology, the way that you see yourself. Because the way that you see yourself really determines how you show up. Much of the work in reprogramming your mind is reprogramming our identity. Our identity needs to be aligned with our goals. And so if you get clear on your goals, you get clear on who you need to be to create that reality. And with those two things, you can start to modify and adjust your thought habits, how you're feeling, and the action that you're taking every day to start beginning to make progress again, bringing towards you what it is that you want. And in the start of this book, right towards the end here of chapter 1, he says this about what people really want. Let me read this. He says, "Today, I am more convinced than ever that what each of us really wants deep down is more life. Happiness, success, peace of mind, or whatever your own conception of supreme good may be, is experienced in its essence as more life. When we experience expansive emotions of happiness, self-confidence, and success, we enjoy more life. And to the degree that we inhibit our abilities, frustrate our God-given talents, and allow ourselves to suffer anxiety, fear, self-condemnation, and self-hate, we literally choke off the life force available to us and turn our backs on the gift which our Creator has made. To the degree that we deny the gift of life, we embrace death." So how do you get to experience more life? Keep in mind, most of us get involved with this idea of reprogramming our mind or reaching our goals or being the best version of ourselves because of this issue where we are not experiencing more life. We're experiencing less life. When you experience less life, you are filled with the feelings of regret, feelings of shame or embarrassment. You are constantly judging yourself and you're judging other people. You're critical of everything that's happening. You're miserable, you're unhappy, you're sad, you're anxious, you're depressed. And that's because we are turning our back. We are denying ourselves the very thing that we want. In the middle of that paragraph, he says, when we experience expansive emotions, that's really what we want. It's not the goal. It's not the money. It's not the car. It's what we believe the money, the car, the relationship gives us. We believe if we have the money and we're driving in the car and we have our partner next to us and we're totally free because of those circumstances, we're going to feel happiness, self-confidence, success. The trick is to learn how to feel those feelings first. When you feel that way, you'll attract and create the experiences that you want. And that really is what life is all about. Life is all about the experiences that we have, that we get to share with one another. It's not the car that you want, it's the experience of choosing what you want and having it that creates that feeling of self-confidence. But if you are mired in worry and doubt, you are never going to think of the ways that you can get that car, the ways that you can act, the different things that you have to do. You're self-conscious and you're anxious and you're worried and you are stuck with the idea, I'm never going to be able to have that car. That idea leads to a thought and feeling cycle of not having that car and leads you to taking action in a way that's going to guarantee that you will not have that car. But if you feel confident, if you feel happy, if you know that you can succeed no matter what, that thought will lead you to another thought. Oh, I could do this maybe, or I could do that. The plan for getting that car begins to show up. And as you feel strengthened and encouraged, you're going to take different action. You're going to do different things to move forward towards that goal. And one day you will have that experience of driving in the car. And you know what? It's not going to feel the way that you think it feels. It's going to feel pretty normal. It's going to feel inevitable. It's going to feel natural. And that's a good thing because you already became that person that was living in that goal or had that car long before the actual car shows up. That's where you become your goal before you reach that goal. Since coming into this material and learning from Bob Proctor, becoming a top consultant for him, I actually have done some work with Bob's company since his passing, helping teach this information to our consultants around the world. Since this information came into my life, I have had incredible experiences. Yes, I've earned a lot of money. I've met people all over the world. But more importantly, I've had powerful experiences with my family and my children. And it all came from the fear of losing my family, actually. The reason I got involved in this information, if you've listened to my first podcast, is because my wife was diagnosed with a medical condition that threatened her life and her ability to work. I was staring in the face a challenge of if I continued to work where I was working, earning $35,000 a year, if my wife passed away, I don't know that I can continue to provide for my children the home that we have, the roof over our heads. And I made a decision as my wife was about to go into brain surgery. That was not going to happen. I was going to grow. I was going to find a better job. I was going to do something to guarantee that my kids had the life I wanted to give them, a life filled with opportunity and experiences, filled with love. And I knew that the only way I could have my kids live that life is if I started living it for myself. That was the seed of change for me. And so if you're in a similar position of being afraid of lack or being afraid of making mistakes and missing opportunities, that's actually a good thing. That's an energy that stirs you to take action. You have to do something different. For me, the opportunity I was aware of is I had to work with the coach that seemed to know more about the mysteries of life than I did. The place where we started was with our goals. What is it that I wanted to have selfishly for me? And I say selfishly because so many people are worried about giving to other people to such an extent that they forget about themselves. They forget about taking care of who they are, taking care of what they want. I think we're conditioned in our society to give more than receive, and I think there's nothing wrong with giving, but if we do it in the wrong spirit, we can forget ourselves and start thinking of ourselves as second-class citizens almost, like what I want doesn't really matter. That's where sacrifice and giving can go to a toxic experience. And so for the first time, I had to answer the question, what did I really want? And I wrote down all kinds of things. I had never earned six figures before. I really wanted that. But most importantly, what I really wanted was to spend long and abundant summers at our family cottage in Michigan. I've mentioned that over and over again. And here's why. In the moment of being afraid of my wife's passing, I was face to face with the life that my kids would end up having. And I wanted that life to be as good as possible for them. To do so, I had to look at my own life and my own experiences and think, what are some of the best memories that I have? And my best memories, my favorite memories, were these long summers at this little cottage in northern Michigan, where my mom had been a teacher and could take the whole summer off. And my brother and I went with her to spend the summer on Lake Michigan. It was fantastic because I had such an abundance of time. I could do whatever I wanted. I could go swim or I could read a book. I could hike in the back forest and play or build a tree fort. I could smash rocks with a hammer looking for geodes, or I could watch MTV. I could choose to do whatever I wanted. And what I didn't realize at the time was that memory of me having that wider range of activities that I could participate in was abundance. I wanted to feel abundant again. And more importantly, I wanted to give my kids the experience of abundance. I wanted to give them the childhood summers that I had. And that's where that goal came from. I figured if I could multiply my income, earn 3 times the amount of money I've been earning, I'd be earning over 6 figures. And if I spent, and I used the term long, abundant summers very specifically because I couldn't stay there for more than 2 weeks at a time because I only had 2 weeks of vacation. Plus with flying back there and everything, like I'd never spent more than 12 days back there since I was 18. When I started having my kids, we had gone back to Michigan twice. Once when my oldest was 2 years old, and again after my third child was born, and he was about 1.5 years old. Over 4 years, we only went twice. With my wife's surgery and things like that, we couldn't go back. We didn't have the money. I didn't have vacation time that I could take off of work. And I dreamed, boy, it would be great to spend all summer back there. But I don't know how to make that happen. It was the experience that I wanted to have to give me the feeling of abundance. And since 2017, when I quit my job to begin as a career coach for myself, we have spent every single summer back there. We're getting ready to go do it again. Thinking about that, dreaming about it, envisioning what those summers would be like, wanting to have sunfish sailboats that I could go sail on because I'd never owned my own boat, let alone sailed by myself, let alone the real desire, how to teach my kids to go do that, was so filled with a life-giving energy that I loved thinking about it. I loved writing about it. I loved focusing on it. I didn't know how. In fact, I remember telling my coach at some time, I don't know what job is going to come into my life that I could take that would let me have more than 2 weeks vacation back there every year. I remember thinking, I didn't know how I was going to make it happen, but that's what I wanted. And over the last few years, we have spent all summer back there. We show up in early June and we leave by the middle of August when school needs to start. Those experiences that I have had have given me those expansive emotions of happiness, confidence, and success. But I started to feel those feelings first before it showed up. In fact, the only way that I could have even quit my job is if I felt that expansive emotion of confidence that I knew that I would be successful. That gave me the courage to quit my job and gave me the courage to work for myself, which created the freedom to have the experience that I wanted. And that's what I want you to have. I want you to have these experiences in your life that give you this greater feeling of life. Because it's not just about you, it's about your family, it's about your kids. I want to share this experience with you that I had that was both challenging and exhausting, but also filled us all with just the greatest enthusiasm, some of the most expansive emotions ever. And it was actually on our way to this event where my middle son actually said to us in the car, he says, my life is filled with once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Him saying that caused me to pause because I remember not very long ago living a life where once-in-a-lifetime experiences passed me by. I wished I could do that. I longed to do that. I regretted not being able to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. And I realized I've created a lifestyle where I don't know that my kids expect or take for granted these things. They're aware of how special they are. But we've created a life where we get to enjoy those experiences together. And we're aware of how special it is, which just heightens the emotion of these experiences altogether. So I'll share what prompted that comment first, and then I'll talk about this event with the hopes that it inspires you to think of very clear experiences that you want to have for yourself, with your partner, and with your children. We were driving to this event, and I was sharing a couple of opportunities that we have this summer. So we are going back to Michigan, and while we're back there, there's going to be a concert for a band that I loved 20 years ago or more, actually. Because music is a big part of my life and I play guitar and different instruments, I have given that gift of music to my kids as well. I've shared bands that I loved when I was a young adult, and it's become their favorite bands as well. In fact, last year we went to go see the band Better Than Ezra, which actually I discovered at the cottage watching MTV in 1995 when their hit song Good was on the radio. And I remember waiting for that video to come on, and I bought the album that summer and listened to it. We got to see the band Better Than Ezra last year in Cincinnati, which was amazing because we also stayed behind and met the band. And the kids were all so excited to meet these heroes. And I was emotional as well because I got to tell them, thank you for providing the soundtrack to my life. And it was emotional for me to share that with them. Got hugs from the band, and it was fantastic. Well, another band that has barely toured is a band called 9 Days. And about 2000, they had their song, Absolutely, A Story of a Girl. And that's the one where, she cried a river and flooded the whole world, if you guys remember that song. Anyways, my kids love that song, love that album, love that band. And they don't tour that much, but they're going to be in Michigan when we're there. And so I asked them, I said, would you like to go to that concert? It means probably missing some time with your uncle and his family and your niece and nephew that are going to be up there as well. We'd have to travel downstate to go see that. And then we'll be gone for about a day and a half. But is that a good sacrifice? Do you want to do that? And they said, yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. And my oldest son says, when are we ever going to have that opportunity again to do that? Because they've been asking probably for about 5 or 6 years to go see 9 Days. And we live out west here in Utah. They don't travel out this way at all. In fact, the last time I think they did was when my wife and I saw them in Vegas before the kids were even born. And it was after we agreed that we're going to do that, which I need to buy tickets for today. That's when my middle son, John, said, my life is filled with once-in-a-lifetime experiences. And he said that while we were driving to the movie theater on Saturday, May 4th, Star Wars Day, to watch a Star Wars movie marathon. All 9 films in the Skywalker saga, back to back to back to back to back to back, for 22 and a half hours. We were on our way to another once-in-a-lifetime experience. And when those tickets in that event was announced several months ago, and I bought the tickets, and then I asked the kids, what did they want to do? Did they just want to go see episode 1 in the movie theaters, or did they want to go to the whole marathon? It would start Friday night, it would end Saturday night, and if they ever had a baseball game on that Saturday, they'd probably all miss their baseball game, unfortunately. And the kids said, without question, let's go to the movie. My oldest son, again, said the same thing that he did about the 9 Days concert. When in our life are we going to have this opportunity again? Now, he's about 15. He's finishing up his freshman year. So he has a few more years of school, and maybe they'll do it again. But man, if they did it 5 years from now, he might be out in college. He might have a job. Who knows? He could be married. Maybe he's not able to do it. And seeing very clearly all of these once-in-a-lifetime experiences that we've had a multitude of them, I realized that I was now in a position of taking advantage of as many of those opportunities as I possibly could. And it's those experiences that make life worth living. Life is not about waking up every day, going to the same job, having the same conversations with your coworkers, the people you're working with, solving the same problems and hoping just to scrape by and have enough money to buy food or pay for the rent or the mortgage or whatever it is, and just surviving the day so that you can wake up and do the whole thing again tomorrow. That's not what life is, but that's what life has become to the vast majority of people. And we wonder why people are stuck, why people are upset, why people are anxious. They are because they're denying the gift of life. And absolutely, the conditions and circumstances in the world seem to be getting more and more challenging. It seems to be even more difficult or harder to have those experiences. And I'm not blind to the fact that the system maybe doesn't work for everybody. In fact, it's the system that's conditioned us to believe that we can't have what we want. That's where most of you are living, stuck in that kind of a mindset. I'm grateful to be able to give that gift to my kids to see things differently. So I want to talk about this experience of watching these Star Wars movies. The first movie started at 10:20 p.m. on Friday night, and we finally got out of the movie theater probably around 8:40 Saturday night. That is 22 and a half hours of sitting down watching movies. We had 5 minutes between each of the movies. Between the trilogies and before the final film, we actually broke for about 25 minutes, and they had brought food in that was catered that we paid for to eat our dinners. And so we had a little bit of time. But mostly we were sitting in the movie theater, we were going to the bathroom, or we were eating our dinners for 23 hours. And you know what? My wife slept a lot through some of the movies, but my kids, and I think we got maybe 10 or 15 minutes where we zoned out at maybe different movies halfway through the experience. My youngest son, who is 12, made the committed, determined decision that he would stay awake for every single one of those movies, and he did. Now, by the 9th movie, he was delirious. He was probably dehydrated. He said, I feel like I'm having an out-of-body experience. And I told him, just take 10 minutes of a nap. When you wake up, you're going to feel so much more refreshed. But he didn't. He stuck with it. He was crazy, deliriously tired by the end of it. But I tell you, I had some really amazing experiences while I was sitting there. And this isn't about Star Wars. This isn't about that as a fantasy movie, or it's not about the toys that I have. If you come into my office, I've got Star Wars action figures all over the place and posters and all those kind of things. And it's not about that. Star Wars has been in my life since I was a little child. In fact, Star Wars came out the year before I was born in 1977. And when my mom saw the movie, she couldn't wait to have kids or little boys that they could watch Star Wars. And when I was old enough, I remember the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater was The Empire Strikes Back. We had moved out to Arizona, and she dropped me off with a family friend to go watch that movie. And I clearly remember it to this day. It's my favorite movie of all time. It was also the first movie I ever saw in the movie theater. So already Star Wars means more than these movies. It's a shared experience that my mom wanted to give me. In fact, I remember going to see a re-release of those movies probably around 1987, at least the original Star Wars, where we saw that at the Cine Capri in Phoenix, Arizona, the largest screen we had in Arizona at the time, sitting in the original seats that people were sitting in 1977. And she took me to go see that, I think on a school night. Like, I just remember the first time I saw it on the big screen. There's something powerful about taking something you love and sharing it with someone else and having them love it. And I was sitting in the movie theater, and I would just watch my boys and their faces and watch how they laugh and watch how excited they are. And knowing that something that matters to me matters to them. And I was sitting there in the theater and going, I'm going to remember this moment for the rest of my life. If I'm on my deathbed, one of those things I'm going to be thinking about is I'm so glad I took my family to that stupid movie marathon in 2024. And I had that experience with them. And I knew that this experience would be with them forever, that they'd always remember it and go, that was amazing. I'm so glad we did that. And it'd be something they would tell their kids about in the future. I think that's almost how we create immortality, is by taking the things that we love, passing them on to our children and our traditions and our experiences, and having it become valuable to them, and it guides their life, and they pass that on to other people. I got to sit next to my wife and watch the first episode, The Phantom Menace. And I realized that we had never seen that in the movie theater together. And now we've seen all of them together. I got to sit next to my oldest boy, and we would crack jokes about different things as they happened. He pointed out Yoda's line to Anakin, hate leads to anger, anger leads to fear, fear leads to suffering. He leaned over and he says, and suffering leads to bad life choices. And I got to experience those things with him. And he did exactly what I did. He video recorded every single opening crawl and posted them to his Instagram stories, and was just so excited to be there. Partway through, my middle son came over and asked for me to sit next to him, especially during Empire Strikes Back. So I spent the next 4 movies in between him and my youngest son. And we got to have those same kind of conversations and jokes. And he was excited to share my favorite movie with him being right there. And then my youngest son, he loves clones so much. To see his face during Attack of the Clones and Revenge of the Sith is so great. But also in Return of the Jedi, when Darth Vader saves his son Luke from the Emperor and then eventually dies, spoilers if you guys haven't seen the movie. My younger son, he's 12, he's graduating 6th grade this year. He gets so emotional about those experiences. He cries his eyes out when that happens because of how powerful that father-son relationship is. And I got to be there and giving him Kleenex and holding his hand and putting my arm around him during those emotional moments. And I got to share that with them. By the end of the movie, we took an after picture of the three boys sitting in the movie theater, puffy eyes, but still grinning and happy. And my youngest son gave me a hug and he started crying. He says, "I'll remember this for the rest of my life." He started sobbing. And my wife came up and gave us a hug. And then my two boys got up and we had a group hug. And I told them, "Guys, you will remember this for the rest of your life." In fact, even when we came home that night and my youngest went to bed, he started crying again. And he says, "We did that." No, yeah, it is a challenge to sit in the movie theater. It is a challenge to do those things. It's a challenge to your body. It's a challenge to your mind. My mind feels like mush after that. In fact, I don't think I've fully recovered. I don't know when I will be. Probably it'll take another week. And I know this sounds like a very privileged challenge to be talking about with everything else going on in the world. Oh, who's this guy that thinks it's really hard to sit in a movie theater for that long? But it's about creating memories and experiences together that matter and mean something. It's about doing something beautiful together. And I promise you, several years ago, before I got involved in this information, if I was only earning $35,000 a year, there's no way I could have rationalized spending that kind of money to sit in the movie theater. For 5 of us, it's $110 plus tax per person. So it's a lot. It reminds me of when we went to Disneyland and we built our lightsabers together. That was $200+ per person, and all 5 of us built lightsabers. The cashier couldn't even speak the price to us, but that's a moment that I had envisioned in my mind and I saw with such clarity. The money was spent months and months previously when I set that as a goal, and I was so grateful to have that experience. That shared experience of this movie marathon drew us closer together as a family, especially a family of teenage boys where they fight all of the time about doing the dishes and whose job it is to sweep the floor and vacuum. And there's always those conflicts, but we were all together without any conflict that entire time. And as I pause, I can hear my oldest 2 boys fighting upstairs about stuff right now, right? So that's how it goes. Without these experiences to look forward to, what is your life about? Is it just a string of Thursdays of continually going to work, hoping and being on the verge for that weekend? And even when that weekend and that break comes, you spend all your time recovering from the exhaustion and the frustration that you've experienced for the last week, that you can't even really be present. You don't really recharge yourself enough to have the next great experience. Those experiences are what life is about, because I think when we're all on our deathbed, we're going to look back at our life and we're going to look at those experiences and say, "I'm so glad that I did this. I'm so glad that I did that." And I think that we will regret, "I wish I did that instead. I wish I did this." That's what our look back on our life is going to be like. And I made a decision several years ago. I didn't want to live with regret. Now, I will tell you, there are times when I've been shut down, times when I want to do something and I feel like I can't do it and I don't do it and I regret that. I still battle with that on occasion, but my life is so much more expansive now because of this information. Part of the reason I wanted to bring this up today as well is that when I work with my clients, we set a monetary goal that they want to achieve. I've had a lot of clients that have earned 3 or 4 times the amount of money by working with me. And that happens in 6 months, a year, maybe a year and a half after they start. It just depends because each person's different. And what I hear from most people, and I hear this especially as a criticism on social media, that life is not about money. Money should never be a goal. And that comes from a lack mindset. That comes because that person doesn't have money, or that person is angry about the people that do have money out there. The little book, Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, talks about this in the very beginning chapter, which is called Your Right to Be Rich. Now, if you are like me, the word rich really rubbed me the wrong way. It made me angry. It made me frustrated, made me jealous, made me envious. People that use the word wealth, I used to really hate because I thought they were greedy people that just took from people that had less. I didn't understand money the way that I do now, which we probably need a podcast episode on money. But he says this in the chapter, Right to Be Rich. This is, again, the science of getting rich. He says, and forgive the masculine tense that it's written in, but it says, "No man can rise to his greatest possible height in talent or soul development unless he has plenty of money. For to unfold the soul, to develop talent, he must have many things to use. And he cannot have these things unless he has money to buy them with. Man develops in mind soul, and body by making use of things. And society is so organized that man must have money in order to become the possessor of things, those things which are required to help develop ourselves to a new level. He continues to say that the object of all life is development. That means growth. That means experience. Everything that lives has an inalienable right to all the development it is capable of attaining. You are born with the right to make the most out of your potential. He says every person naturally wants to become all that he is capable of becoming. This desire to realize innate possibilities is inherent in human nature. We cannot help wanting to be all that we can be. Success in life is becoming what you want to be. But he does say, you can become what you want to be only by making use of things, and you can have the free use of things only by becoming rich enough to buy them. We're having our oldest boy go through some pitching coaching, especially for probably his last year on the city Little League team. And he's pitching. He's one of the best pitchers on his team. It costs money to get him in Little League. It costs money to get him these practices. There is nothing wrong with creating wealth for yourself and developing a positive relationship with money, because it is the key to all of our experiences in this life. And I know that's one of the greatest criticisms that people have as well. There's nothing in life that's free. Everything costs something. And I understand that. And it's a lot different. I know that some of us wish we could all just live off of the land the way that people did hundreds of years ago. And I agree. I think life maybe could be simpler and more enjoyable that way. But that's not how it is. And wishing for it to be that way is folly. It's futile. Progress is never going to move backwards. We're always going to move forward. And we are at a stage in our societal development where money is required to have the experiences and the use of things. And the only way you're going to have those experiences is to resolve the conflicts that you have with money, to build a vision of your life that is so broad and so grand that it requires and demands you to grow your income to a level where you have those experiences. And the only way you're going to grow your income is if you grow who you are as a person. I do have some clients that get started in this work and become overwhelmed. In fact, just about everybody gets overwhelmed within the first month or 6 weeks. And they start looking at what to cut out. In fact, I just had this conversation with a client earlier this week. She stumbled across my podcast over the winter break, December or January, and reached out and said, if you can do it, I can do it. And she has found a new career path that she's studying for. And she's excited and nervous and feeling definitely overwhelmed. And she's, oh, man, should I pause working with Todd? What should I do? And I explained to her that life never gets simpler. It's always as big as it is. In fact, it gets bigger and more complex the longer you live. And if you start saying, I can't handle these experiences in life, you actually are choosing lack and limitation instead of this expansive experience of having more life. The only thing that you can do to keep up with the demands of life is to become better. Jim Rohn has said it. Don't wish for things to be easier. Wish that you can become better. In fact, work on you becoming better. As you grow and increase your capacity, you'll be able to handle what life throws at you. That is growth. That is development. So if you grow your feelings about money, if you develop that wealth consciousness and do something so that you can attract, earn, and multiply the income that you're having, you will have the fuel for all of these experiences. For me, it's the experience of spending every summer on the beach in Michigan, or being able to take the kids to Disneyland and build the lightsabers, or be able to go to a silly Star Wars marathon, to take my kids to the concerts that they want to see. To do those things, I have to earn money. And so do you. So let me help you get started. Here's what you need to do. If you want to be able to experience more life, or all that life has to offer, you need to start getting extremely clear about what you want. What are the experiences that you want to have? The number one thing I hear from most people is traveling. I want to travel more. I want to travel to different countries. I want to experience different cultures. You know what? It requires money to do those things. Get clear on the experiences that you want to have. Put yourself into that experience in your imagination. How would you want to be spending your days? Where would you want to stay? If you're going to travel, you can do it on a shoestring budget and you can stay at all the sketchy motels and hostels that you want to. We've seen movies about what that's like. Or you could stay in the best places. If you're flying across the ocean, do you want to be crammed in the back or do you want to be up in first class or business class? If you're going to a concert, do you want to be all the way in the back in the nosebleeds or do you want to be right up front? What are the experiences that you want to have? Start wrapping your head around it. Start saying, yes, I want those things, because I will tell you, you want those things because that potential is asleep inside of you right now. You have said no to it for so long that you have burned out the flame of enthusiasm for life. You need to start saying yes to those things. There was a conversation I had with another client today, and I pulled out this little book, The Master Key System by Charles F. Hannell. And he says this about goal creation. He says there's essentially 3 steps to goal creation. You have your idealization, which that idealization, he says, is the most important. It's a vague, blurry picture of what it is that you want. He says you have to see the picture in your mind and know what you want. You're sowing the seed. But before sowing any seed, you want to know what the harvest will be. This is idealization. He says, first, the general plan will be dim, but it will begin to take shape. The outline will take form. Then the details, and you will gradually develop the power by which you are enabled to formulate plans, which will eventually materialize in your objective world. So start off, make a big list. What is your ideal experiences that you want to have in this life with yourself, with your family, for other people around you? And then the second step, visualization. Again, seeing the details. Feed the details in and listen to this, because this is really powerful. Then comes the process of visualization. You must see the picture more and more complete. See the detail. And as the details begin to unfold, the ways and means for bringing it into manifestation will develop. Now, the clarity of your vision starts to teach your subconscious mind what you need to do. You may not consciously be aware of it, but your intuition is going to speak to you at some point. There's going to be enough clarity in the experiences that you want to have that it moves from an ideal to a crystal clear visualized image. And then you'll have an idea. Maybe I should do this. Maybe I should do that. That is higher infinite intelligence speaking through your intuition into your conscious mind saying, if you go here and do this and do that, you will move closer to your goal. Clarity of your outcome starts to teach you what you need to do to step towards it. And he says this, one thing will lead to another. This is the how. This is the plan. Thought will lead to action. Action will develop methods. Methods will develop friends. And friends will bring about circumstances. And finally, the third step, or materialization, will have been accomplished. You have a thought, I should go do that. And then you do that and you see a little progress. And then it becomes a method. So you do that more frequently. You do it better. Whatever you're doing is going to bring you in connection with other people. And those people will help you create the circumstances that you need to be able to take action on those dreams. And then someday you will wake up and have the experience that you visualized years in advance. And you'll wonder, what changed? How did I get here? Here's what happened. You programmed your mind with a very clear experience and outcome that you wanted to have, that you thought would create the experience of more life in you. And you focused on it so much and you saw the details and you were inspired by it. You had ideas. You had communication come from infinite intelligence that is everywhere all at once. Bob Proctor always said, universal mind is everywhere, in everything. All knowledge that ever was or ever will be is evenly present everywhere, all at once. You tapped into that infinite intelligence, that Christ consciousness, and it told you, go here, do that, talk to this person. And you reprogrammed your mind enough to follow through with that action on those ideas. And as you did, you met people and created those circumstances that you experience as the achievement of your goal, as the experience of having more life. I hope you can feel how emotionally powerful this idea is for me. These silly experiences that I've had that might seem trivial to you, but are incredibly important to me. And I hope that you feel how passionate I am about this, because I want everyone to experience this kind of freedom. Does that mean that everything is easy? No. Like I said, my kids still fight. I still have disagreements with my wife. There's times when I'm exhausted and I'm burned out. All of those things happen. I think that's a part of life. It's a part of the struggle of growth. But I hope you take this advice and begin mapping out in your mind the experiences you want to have in your life, the experiences that are important to you, so that when you look back at your life from your deathbed, you can look at those opportunities and say, I'm so glad that I did that. I'm so glad that I took the chance to become the person that I am now. I'm so glad I shared that experience with the people that I love. Your assignment from this episode is to decide what are those experiences and start seeing those pictures more and more clearly. And as you have thoughts drop into your mind, I should do this, I should do that, I want you to take action on them. Now, it's not super easy to do this, even though simplistically, me communicating the formula to you is pretty easy. It's hard because you're not programmed to think this way. You're not programmed to take action on your intuitive ideas. You're not programmed to quit your job and go work for yourself. You're not programmed to do those things. It's the conditioning in our mind that holds us back. But if you have a desire, a dream, an ideal that you want bad enough, your desire is the fuel that you need to start making those changes and systematically changing your mindset to be in line with the life that you want enables you to take action on those opportunities as they show up. Will you do that with me? Will you do the work? Will you build the vision? I hope so. And if you're married and if you have kids, invite them into that process. Set goals as a family, see it together, and then begin to work towards it. And if you need help doing that, if you feel like you need the resources and the knowledge and the awareness, just like my client that I read that passage from the Master Key System to today, if you need help, I'd love to help you on that journey. You can always book a call with me and we can have a conversation about what it takes to move you forward. I hope you take action on it because it's made all the difference in my life, and I know it will for you too. For now, if you found this episode of the Reprogram Your Mind podcast valuable, please like and subscribe. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening right now. Please subscribe. If you can leave a review or a comment about the podcast or about this episode, that would be amazing because it would help this content get out to the people that need it. More importantly, if there's someone that you know that you need to share this message with, please send this episode to them. And until next time, remember that we become what we think about, and so do you.